morning, everyone. Welcome to the new interactive class of English. I am Roslyn, your English teacher. Today, we will be discussing about a poem, A Tiger in the Zoo, written by Leslie Norris from your English textbook of First Flight. Before moving on to the poem, let me ask you, how many of you have visited a zoo? I think many of you have visited the zoo. Even I also love to visit a zoo. Can you tell me what do you see in a zoo? What is the usual scenario in the zoo? It is obvious that we see the animals, right? Different types of animals. But have you ever thought of how do the animals feel inside the zoo? Are they happy? Do they enjoy themselves? Have you ever thought about it? Now, this poem is a very powerful poem carrying a great message for all of us. When you read the title, A Tiger in the Zoo, what comes up in your mind? After going through the poem, I am sure that a change will be there in your mindset. Let us move on to the poem. Before moving on to the poem, let me say something about the person who has written the poem, George Leslie Norris. He was a prize-winning Welsh poet and short story writer. He is considered as most important Welsh writers of the post-war period, and his literary works have won many prizes. Now this poem gives us a sharp contrast about a tiger. The poem provides a contrast in the mood and the environment of a tiger when he is in the zoo and when he is in the forest, when it is in its natural habitat and when it is imprisoned. Let us move on to the poem. He tucks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rays. Okay. Now, stalks means what? Walks with a stiff, haughty or angry gait. Stripes, long, narrow bands. Velvet, smooth like the surface of a velvet. Now, rage means violent. Vivid means very clear. Now, in this stanza, the poet wants to say that the tiger in the zoo walks in the limited space provided to it in the cage. It takes a few steps. There are stripes on its body which are quite prominent, very clear. Its paws are soft like velvet. No noise is produced when it walks on its pads of velvet. The tiger is silent but is in anger. In the first stanza, the poet says that the tiger that is confined in the zoo moves around in the cage under his bright colored skin. He can only take few steps as the cage is small, hence he is very angry. His feet are so smooth that nobody can hear his footsteps. Next stanza, he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through the long grass near the waterhole where plump deer pass. Lurking means what? Lying hidden in order to attack. Sliding, moving very slowly. Plump means very fat. Now, in this stanza, the poet suggests that the cage is not the proper place for the tiger. It is not its natural habitat. Habitat means what? A place where the animals are allowed to live freely, or the dwelling place. Usually, tigers are found sitting under the long grass near a stream. As soon as they see their prey, like deer, coming, they slide silently through the grass and kill them. The poet wants to convey that the tiger should be there in the forest in its natural habitat. In the second stanza, the poet says that the actual life of a tiger is to live in the jungle where he could catch his prey and eat it, but the tiger in the cage cannot do so. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Snarling means what? Making an angry warning sound. Edge, border. Baring, showing. Fangs, long sharp teeth. Claws, sharp, usually curved nails on the foot of an animal. The poet then gives another suggestion that the tiger should be sitting at the jungle's edge in the close vicinity of a village. Vicinity means what? The atmosphere, the surrounding. He should be terrorizing the people passing that way by its sharp teeth, baring its claws, and producing low sound of anger. The poet says that if the tiger would have been free, he would have snarled around the houses located at the outskirts of the forest. He would terrorize people with his sharp tooth and claws. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. The poet now shows deep sympathy at the plight. Plight means what? Unpleasant situation of the tiger that is imprisoned in a cell made of concrete. He cannot come out of the cell because strong bars are fixed. The poet says that the tiger's strength is locked behind the bars. He shows no interest in looking at the visitors. Rather, he keeps on stalking in anger in the limited space of the cage. Now, the poet says that the tiger is confined in a strong cell which is made of strong building material. As the tiger is behind bars, so his ferociousness is also behind the bars. He just stalks in the cage. He never tries to terrorize the visitors because his power is restricted by the cage. The last stanza, he hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. The poet again takes the readers to the cage where the tiger is sitting in the cage and feeling unpleasant and restless. He hears the sound of the patrolling cars of the zoo authorities. He shows no interest in them. He stares at the shining stars with his brilliant eyes. The poet raises a moral issue here. He intends to present a strong case against the cruelty. The poet says that in the night the tiger hears the sounds of the patrolling cars. He then stares at the shining stars with his shining eyes. The poet wants to say that the tiger is sad, and as he is confined in the cage, so he cannot do anything. Therefore, he stares at the stars in the night and tries to divert his thoughts towards them. Now the vocabulary. Snarling means what? Warning sounds made by animals. bearing uncovered fangs, sharp tooth of animals. Concrete, building made of bricks, cement, sand and water. Patrolling, to guard or to whistle. The poetic devices that are used in the poem, the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. Enjambment. The line continues to the next line without punctuation mark. For example, sliding through the deer pass. Alliteration, use of sound P at the start of the two words, plump, pass. Imagery. The poet has tried to create an image of the tiger's activities, lurking in shadow, sliding through, plump deer. Onomatopoeia, using words which denote sound, snarling. Then assonance, use of vowel sound O and I, should, around, houses, bearing, he is, white. Consonants, use of consonant sounds S. Consonants and consonants don't get confused with the alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound but with the beginning, at the beginning. But consonance is what? Use of the consonant sound but at the last, at the end. Personification. The tiger is personified because the poet refers him as he. Let us have an analysis of the poem. In the poem, the poet describes about the condition of the tiger inside the cage and then takes him to his actual habitat, that is the forest, in imagination. The poet narrates how the tiger can walk only inside the cage as he is trapped inside in the zoo. He walks in his quiet anger but decides to ignore the visitors as he felt his ferociousness is suppressed behind the bars of the cage. Though at night he used to stare at the white stars in the sky and hear the sound of the patrolling cars. Whereas if the tiger were in his normal habitat, he could have enjoyed his life the way he wanted. He could roam without any fear of being captured, run and search for his prey, and even scare those villagers by his loud angry sound along with his white fangs and claws. The value the poem depicts is about the freedom of the innocent wild animals which is controlled by human beings. Now the assignment for you. First question, love for freedom is the natural instinct of every living being. Explain. Is it right to confine wild animals into cages? Why or why not? I hope all of you must have understood the lesson. Thank you.